This is Leadership in Action, and I'm Mark Stiles, your host. Join me as we delve deep into the passions, expertise, and experiences of Boston area innovators. Sponsored by the Boston chapter of Entrepreneurs Organization, this is Leadership in Action. Hey, folks, welcome back to Leadership in Action, your Boston chapter of EO's podcast. Today's guest is an entrepreneur. He's an investor. He's a business coach. He's a straight shooter, no bull, hoodie-wearing, meditating, rock and roll kind of coach and mentor. He's been a member of EO for over 12 years. He is the current president of your board. Yes, a leader of leaders. An entrepreneur, coach, and chief visionary at Self-Assembled Ventures. Please meet your president, Glenn Grant. Welcome to the show, Glenn.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Hey, Glenn.
Mark Stiles, the famous Mark Stiles. Element
Glenn.
of Stiles and beyond.
Here we go. I love it. I love it. Hey, so we're a quarter into your new board. Tell us how it's going.
So yeah, it's going pretty awesome. For those listeners at home, EO Boston and all of EO, our non-for-profit calendar year starts on July 1st. So when Mark says we're a quarter into my term as president, and this incoming board, who's now in, right? We're not incoming anymore. We're in here. So we're a quarter in. It's it's always an interesting wild ride when you have a group of entrepreneur A-type personalities all doing volunteer work together to run an organization, right? So we're all really busy and we all like to do things our way, and we're all coming together as a team. It's almost like the UN of our little businesses. Everybody's got a different style and then lives in a different world. And we're doing all this work to set our year up, and all of our various positions on the board. You know, some folks are the forum chair, and then the learning and events chair, and SAP chair. We all have our different roles. So we're all coming together around the table to put together a program, a unified program for our year. My theme this year as chapter president is unity. And the goal there behind the unity theme is to really get our chapter reunified as members. You know, COVID blew everything up. We all scattered to our little Zoom caves. And, the way that we interact with each other post-COVID is different than before. Events, like learning events. We've been relearning events because, hey, we used to get quite a bit of traffic from the after work crowd. You'd go to work, wrap up at the office, maybe a little early, go to the EO event on your way home. And now you're at home, and I got to convince you that it's worth your time to put pants on, take a shower, and come out and see your fellow EO members. Some of which you already saw today on Zoom, and it feels like was all in reality anyway. So, it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun. Again, unity, getting the members back together, getting our chapter mojo going a little bit more, outside of the forum bubbles. You know, everybody has their forum, for the most part, and there's that tight bond there. And being an old timer that used to have less gray hair when I joined EO and didn't have 2 kids and everything else. I remember a time when the membership as a whole had a little bit more of that forum bond than in recent years.
And we're bringing that bond back through some of these learning events. Tell us about the learning day that we had, the masterclass. That was pretty cool. I was there.
Yeah. So, relearning how we do learning events and all events. We kicked it off this year with a big event, the Executive Masterclass, brought in 4 speakers, really focused the content around tangible takeaways you could take back to your business. There's sort of a balance that we have to have with our entire event calendar, right? We want to have fun. We want to do socials. We also want to learn things and take them back to our business. And every EO member is in a different place in their own entrepreneurial journey and their evolution, right? So some of the longer tenured members may have sold their business or sold multiple businesses or have large businesses with excellent leadership teams that pretty much run their business for them. Have heard all the business talks in the past. They might be more interested in some of these experiential events or social events, whereas year 1, year 2 EO member who's just started drinking with a fire hose, maybe has a smaller business that's still pretty scrappy, that they're part of delivering service. They're like, hey, if I'm taking time out of my day to go this event, I got to learn something I can take back to my office and implement. I don't really have time for that social thing right now. I do that with my forum, but twice in 1 month, I just don't have the time.
What are some of the other opportunities that EO provides for folks?
So, there's Forum, which is our small group of trusted advisors, right? We have our events here at the Boston level, and there's a variety of them focused around learning from SAPs, learning from guest speakers, trying to get some more experiential events cooked up this year. Also, we're working on bringing back chapter retreat. A little draconian, but I'm going to try my best to get every member in one spot at least once during my term. That's my goal, right? But I got to make it worth it. I got to make it worth their time. So we're looking at doing that more like May of 24, early June 24. So we have plenty of time to give people notice. But then there's also regional and global events. So our big regional event is NERV. This year it's in Tampa. It's next week, actually. So I just got back from Florida for a family vacation, and I'm turning around and going back to Florida a week later. But the NERV conference is East Coast Regional Conference. And so you get members from all up and down the East Coast there. Usually it's, 600, 700, 800 EO members, all different cities. People do come from outside the East Coast as well, globally, internationally, but it's really focused on our region and just getting out of the house, getting out of Boston, getting out of your chapter and going and meeting, these fantastic entrepreneurs from the EO ecosystem is hugely valuable. And then of course it's a bigger event, bigger budget, bigger speakers, bigger learnings, bigger activities, bigger socials, interactions. But, getting out of your element, no pun intended there, element of styles, getting out of your element, right? And, having that sort of confidence and trust that you're rolling with EOers and you're going to find that intimacy, as we call it, right? You can just roll up to anybody and start gabbing. What's your business? Blah, blah, blah. What do you do? And you're probably going to exchange a few bits of wisdom right there on the spot or make a connection, right? Maybe they do something that you need or vice versa. No soliciting, of course, but hey, I've done a lot of business with a lot of EOers the approved way, not been solicited to, but I trust EOers more than I trust strangers. So I tend to start with my EO community there. And I didn't know that I was looking for XYZ service, but I'm hanging out at the cocktail hour after day one and I'm talking to somebody. I'm like, wow, you do that? Because that sounds like something I need. And that's, a big part of why I like to go to all those events and really about the people, meeting the people for me.
You talk about the solicitation, and I find that interesting because there is a fine line there. And what I enjoy most about this podcast here is finding out what people do, because a lot of times there's that uncomfortable nature when you're at an event where you don't want to solicit or you don't want to be perceived as soliciting. And it's a networking event where, typically you're finding out what other people are doing. So it's interesting to find out what people actually do because maybe they can help you. What about the SAPs? How are we helping the SAPs? What are SAPs, first of all?
So what are SAPs? Those are our strategic alliance partners, AKA sponsors, but strategic alliance partner has such a better ring to it. They are businesses in the area that pay to become partners with our chapter. And we use the money that they give us to put on great events. And in exchange, they get access and exposure to our member base. They are also bound to the non-solicitation dance, as I like to call it. And really, people do get really wound up about that. Some people don't care at all. Some people care a lot. You're allowed to say what you do. You're just not allowed to dog people and constantly badger them and be like, hey, what do I do to get you in this car? Right? That's not good. But you can tell people what you do. And if they want to learn more, they can ask you to learn more. And then after that, you can go ahead and pitch, right? There's that sort of that edge that's broken. So we have a number of great strategic alliance partners here in Boston. And, I go to that list of SAPs right off the bat as sort of my go-to vendors when I need something. I bank with Cambridge Savings Bank because they're an EO sponsor, or strategic alliance partner. And I know Brad over there, and he is very friendly and also cuts through the noise around banking because he knows that I'm an EO member and he's met me at the EO events. And so you're jumping through less hoops to get to the point when you're banking with them, right? There's some instant credibility there where we can, all right, let's have a real conversation about a line of credit or, the SBA loans or all of the crazy COVID programs that, Brad was guiding us through at the beginning of COVID.
I love it. I love the concept of supporting those who support us, right? That's a nice feature, right? If you need a service, let's look and see if there's an SAP first and foremost.
Absolutely. Hey, we vet our SAPs, but hey, no one's perfect, right? But as a chapter, we vet our SAPs, but really we self-vet our SAPs because other members use the SAPs, and you can go talk to some other member who's using the SAP and get the skinny on that.
Right.
As a chapter, we always want to put our SAPs forward. We're not going to endorse something that we don't believe in for sure, but the best reference is someone who uses this service already. So you have that sort of double whammy, right? They're sort of vetted by the chapter, but then you're also got a trusted peer who, is part of our chapter, runs a business, maybe in your forum. And, you're going to probably trust their feedback a little bit more than, just reading a Google review. 5 stars.
5 stars. 5 stars it is.
Maybe.
So we've got your local chapter. We've got the sub groups called forum. We've got your regional opportunities. What about global?
Global is really interesting. Global's, sort of taking a back seat again because of that dirty COVID word, right? Not a lot of international travel 3 years ago. But we have EO chapters all across the world. And what's starting to come back is this concept of called EO universities, where they're destination, learning events, sort of like Nerve, but sponsored globally. I think there was one just recently in Sydney or coming up. But people come from all over the world to meet new members from different places, hear interesting speakers and concepts and just drink from the fire hose of learning. A little bit more structured is becoming a member of your local board and then attending the annual Global Leadership Conference, which is, sort of all of the member leaders from all the chapters around the world coming to essentially a training for your board role. Like, hey, congratulations, you joined the board. You are now the membership chair. Please do not reinvent the wheel. Here's a playbook so that you can execute. Feel free to put your fingerprints on it, of course, but again, we got volunteer member leaders jumping in, and just like in our business, training is a big deal, right? So we go there, we get the training, but we also have crazy experiences, and you're meeting people from all over the world and some amazing socials. And so that is the global event that I go to the most because it happens every year, and I've been on the board. This is my second tour of duty on the EO Boston board. But I'm looking forward to getting back to the universities once they're really sort of firing on all cylinders, right? They just sort of spun one up, but I need a year's notice before I'm traveling around the world to go to a business conference. So when they're kind of popping up with 3 to 6 months notice, a little short for me. I have young kids at home, can't just bounce out of here and go to Sydney right now. But I'm looking forward to going somewhere when there's something that works with my schedule.
So obviously you're giving a lot of your time, your effort and energy to EO. What is EO given to you?
Ooh, good question, Mark. That is a big one. EO's given a lot to me. And I'm not just saying that. So I started off as an accelerator, and then graduated from accelerator. So by definition, I had a business that was under $1 million and got it over $1 million of revenue from what I learned in accelerator. In accelerator, I joined as a tradesperson who owned a job. I didn't know this until I went to a couple learning days and someone said, sounds like you own a job, not a business. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I want to own a business, right? So I didn't know. I'm an IT guy, professional geek. I fix computers. And I learned, oh, I'm this thing called an entrepreneur now. And I've got these other responsibilities I need to do or could do or should do to really transform this job that I have to a business and continue to go and grow. So that first step there, making that leap from tradesperson to entrepreneur and transformational leader, learning the difference. I didn't go to college to get an MBA. I don't know how to run a business, right? I started off with, I'll do work. I'll send you an invoice. You give me money. All right, cool. There's a lot more to it than that. There's people, there's culture, there's sales, there's marketing, there's operations, there's gross profit margins, there's net profit margin, there's taxes, there's laws, there's liability, there's all these things. And I keep learning a little bit of nugget along the way, or little bits and nuggets along the way from Accelerator. And then from joining EO and going to GLC and learning from other leaders and just continually being exposed to other entrepreneurs at the right time when I needed certain information. Like, you can't just go and learn it all at once and go back and implement it. It's got to be valid to you, relevant to you at the time that you experience it. So for Accelerator, we have the 4 learning days, people, finance, strategy, and execution. And I remember the first time around on finance, I was like, ooh, and I'm dating myself here, I should take out that CD-ROM of QuickBooks I bought at Staples and finally put it in the computer and maybe set QuickBooks up, because I don't know any of that stuff. I've been holding on to this license for a while. But the second and third time around, I'm like, oh, what's a line of credit? Why is it different than a loan? Should I go get it? How do you even do that? But that wasn't relevant to me the first time around. So it's all about continual learning, continual growth, having that growth mindset. And then also best program, hands down, in EO, in my opinion, and the same opinion of many others, is EMP, the Entrepreneurial Masters Program. Some of the old schoolers have referred to it as Birthing of Giants. It is now called EMP. We are very fortunate. It's actually hosted every year here in Massachusetts, in Dedham. So I drive 45 minutes. Friend of mine flies 27 hours from the Philippines through God only knows how many connecting flights, right? But that is an amazing experience. You become part of a class. It's a 3-year program. You come to Boston. You spend 4 or 5 days in this group with 65, 70 entrepreneurs, drinking from the fire hose, crazy presentations and speakers. You leave, you come back a year later. Same class though. And then you come back another year, same class. So I'm actually part of an alumni group called the Return to Masterminds, which is not officially EO affiliated. But I've been coming back to the Endicott House in Dedham with that group for 11 years now. I call it EO Summer Camp. I room with my good friend Eric Cruz, and we nerd out about Star Wars and gross profit margin, and it's pretty awesome.
Also an SAP for those paying
Also
attention.
an SAP, that's right. Cruz and Co.
So Glenn, if you were to accomplish only one goal, I know you mentioned having everybody get together for a chapter-wide retreat, but if there was only one goal that you were able to accomplish as board president this year, what would that be?
I want to get every single EO Boston member to attend one EO Boston event outside of Forum at least once this year.
So that's not happening.
That has not happened in a long time. We've had some legacy members who basically only do Forum. And I think that's, well, Mark, I think that's bullshit. Oh, I got to tell you, got to get out of the house. And if you haven't been out of the house in a while, come on out. If you still think it's not worth your time, prove it, verify it, and then go back into your case. It's fine. But I want to get everybody out to at least one event. But my part in that, and the part that the board has in that, our responsibility is to make events that are worthwhile, that are attractive to everybody on some level, at least once, so that you want to get out. That it's worth your time. That
And
it's,
we've got a couple cool ones coming up.
we have a lot of cool events coming up, Mark. We've got one coming up. Well, we've got Nerve, the regional one.
Yeah.
But October 26th, we have Cultivating Resilience with retired Navy SEAL Jimmy May, who I met in my Return to Masterminds class. He was a speaker a few years back, and we actually have adopted him as a member of our group, because otherwise you have to have graduated EMP to get into that group. But, defend the nation, our freedoms and stuff. I feel like we over a little bit. And he's an entrepreneur. He runs a few businesses now. One's called Sushi Assassin, which is pretty cool, right? In-home sushi catering. And a few other businesses as well, non-for-profit, on helping SEALs of character re-enter the business world or enter the business world. I don't know. I mean, hey, being a SEAL is business, but I think it's different business than you probably do behind a computer screen. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that one, but Jimmy's a really cool guy. We're doing this event at the USS Constitution Museum. So
Very cool.
that's something we have in Boston, and we got, the whole place booked out for our own private experience. And I was like, hey, where would we have kick-ass Navy SEAL talk to us? Well, one of the oldest ships and shipyards in the nation. Why not? Right? Let's make it a little spicier than, the conference room at the Marriott, right?
That's right. And then you have the author of 5 love languages coming to Boston also.
We do. We have a spousal event. That is in January 11th, I believe. If you haven't read the 5 love languages, easy read, great book, a little quiz on it's really about how to communicate with people. Everybody has their own love language. It's great with employees too, not to get too sappy. But that's going to be a spousal event. We're trying to make it a little swanky, so it's a little date night action. Spousal life partner, or don't have to be married. We're progressive here in EO Boston. But
what's your love language, Glenn?
Love languages.
What is
my
yours?
love language? Is physical touch and words of affirmation.
In that order?
Yes, I believe. Been a while.
Mine's the flip-flop, words of affirmation and physical touch.
Oh, awesome. So next time I see you, we're going to embrace in a big hug, and I'm going to tell you how awesome you are. You tell me how awesome I am.
You're doing great, Glenn. You're doing amazing as president of our board. So what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? I don't know, all sorts of crazy, weird geopolitical instability, right? I mean, that's sort of that thing. But from a business perspective,
time stamping.
Yeah, I'm just not. I feel like they can change the picture on my phone to just a graphic that says, "Do not open the news." Do not open the news. So give it a little break. Good thing they just tested the emergency broadcast network last week. They can let me know if I need to know. But seriously, what keeps me up at night? Well, I'm a business coach now, Mark. So I owned an IT company, and I sold the majority of that to private equity in 2018. And I'm still involved in that business on the board, and that business is growing wildly successful, growing successfully and growing wildly. And I'm pretty excited about that, and the future outcomes surrounded about that. And in the interim, I started doing what, was fun for me, which was helping other entrepreneurs try to achieve what I was able to do. Start a business, grow a business, sell a business, rinse, repeat, right? So not that it keeps me up at night sweating, but I'm an entrepreneur and a visionary. I can't turn it off. So, I'm always thinking about my business, but also my customers' businesses. What can we do? Who can we partner with? I got this idea. You should send out this gift around the holidays. It screams your brand. Oh my God. So I just have a lot going on in my head about whatever it is I talk to somebody about that day and their challenges or their opportunities that are exciting to me. Because I, definitely am a tech guy, a geek and nerd, big into Star Wars, got 2 little boys. But my unknown passion this whole time was entrepreneurship. I love nerding out on entrepreneurship and business and startups and small business, and not so much an enterprise guy, that's a level of politicking that I don't function well in and don't have a lot of advice for anybody. But the rest of us out here who own our own small businesses and are scrappy visionaries and executors, I just love jamming on that all day long, man. So it's really just keeps the brain running, thinking in the shower about what can be done.
I love that you bring it full circle. I find that a lot of the coaches out there, the mentors out there are simply sharing abundantly what has made them so successful. And I think that's really cool that you're doing that.
Thanks. It's fun, giving back, right? I learned from the EO members that came before me. I was very fortunate when I joined Accelerator early on that I was asked to participate in the EO board. I got to go to, my first GLC in Chicago, and I was like, oh, shit, what did I get myself into? This is really cool. These are some pretty badass people. And I'm like learning all this stuff. And sure, I mean, I've been in 12 years. Maybe I've finally paid more than what I paid for college. But I've learned way more. But officially, I still consider myself a UMass undergrad. Hey. That's code word for a dropout that started a business during the .com years.
I love it. So you're running a business, a successful business. You're still keeping an eye on your initial business. You're running a board of leaders. What do you do for fun when you're not doing all of this amazing stuff?
What do I do for fun? I like to play, Mark. I'm a playful man. So I'm fortunate to have two boys that are also playful, ages 10 and 14, and a wife who's also tolerant of my shenanigans. I have electric skateboards called One Wheels. I have an electric surfboard called the E-Foil. A lot of Nerf gun wars around the house here, for sure. Legos, big into Legos. But yeah, I just like to play with my kids and go and have some fun. And then, yeah, it's weird though, but like, I also love to nerd out on spreadsheets about, EO and business. And, I owned my business for 9 years and created some pretty cool spreadsheets that aren't very sexy and complicated if you're a spreadsheet ninja, but just a little bit of, oh my aha-ness that they provide and helping people adapt them for their businesses. And it's like, oh my God, I can actually see the pieces now. It's like being able to read the matrix code. So when I'm working with my clients and jamming on that, I'm trying to get my arms around how my my ADD mind and fifth grade math education can like make sense of this all so that I can help them run their business better. Certainly if you're a math genius, you've got a better advantage, but I always say that as an example. Hey, we want to do fifth grade math, right? We don't want this to be too complicated. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You should be able to figure out what's going on. You should be figuring out whether or not you're making money off that customer or technically paying them $500 a month for the privilege of supporting their IT environment while they get pissed at you. That was a revelation for me back in the day. I'm like, hey, when I do all this math, turns out it costs me $500 a month for us to not enjoy working with you because you won't invest in your IT. That's weird. Maybe I shouldn't do that anymore.
You're out.
And it's my bad for not taking care of it earlier, right?
Yeah. So you have a message for all of the EO Boston board members to get to the learning events. For those listening to this who are thinking about joining EO, what is your message to them?
Hands down, biggest no-brainer investment you can possibly make in your business and your personal life. I haven't even really gone there yet. Like for me, transformational on the personal end too. Being an entrepreneur is ridiculously stressful. And I think that when we're younger, we bottle that stress up and you're like, I can take it. This is no big deal. But it'll kill you. Stress is the worst. Stress is the number one killer. So through my EO journey and learning from others who've been further down the road than me, I'm into mindfulness and meditation. One of my favorite books that I learned from EMP was The Miracle Morning.
Mm.
So I've got my routine of exercise and meditation and reflection and tools like the 5 love languages, understanding how to communicate with my spouse. And my wife, Aspen, and I, she also works with me in our coaching practice because she also worked with me at G2. We worked together for many years, and we used the DISC assessment in business for hiring. And we had a big revelation using the DISC assessment in our marriage. That was huge, huge aha moment for us. I'm high D and high I, and she's high S and high C. And through that, we figured out, I'm like, oh, that's why when this gets like all uncertain and weird, paycheck or maybe a client cancels or something, she's freaking out. And I'm like, no big deal, whatever, man. And vice versa, right? Like I'm not as organized with these certain things, but she's all on top of like, making sure we file our taxes on time. Little details like that. Like, hey, I've got no problem making the money and paying the money for taxes. I like roads and security. But sometimes that paperwork, man, sometimes the paperwork is just not my jam.
That's the C that you're missing.
That's the C.
Got it. So Glenn, I want to thank you very much for all of what you've been doing for the board and for me. You were a forum mate of mine when I first joined, and I've learned tremendously from you. But how would someone get in touch with you?
How does someone get in touch with me? Pretty easy. I'm on LinkedIn, Glenn Grant. You can also email me at Glenn with 2 N's .grant@selfassembled.com. But also, Mark, I want to thank you for, Mark has stepped up this year and has become our governance chair, which is not the fun police that you might think it is from the title. It's more of a C thing, a paperwork stuff, just making sure, hey, we're not in trouble. But also, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but you joined EO Boston during COVID?
I did. Indeed.
So, I thank you for your patience during that time. We have not been the same organization structurally as we were prior, just because of our limitations, what we did. So for keeping the faith, being in my forum, sticking with us, now coming out to the events, now joining the board, really sticking it through when, hey, I joined this group and, my friend, I believe Dave Will talked you into joining this crazy band of entrepreneurs. You took his word for it. But hey, I got all these Zoom meetings. I guess Zoom is cool and all, but keeping the faith, sticking out for the long haul and still being here with us and also helping us, keep our house in order from the governance perspective on the EO Boston board.
Happy to serve, my friend. Happy to serve.
And taking over as the host of this very podcast too. Just reel them in, baby. Come in.
Well, I have enjoyed this tremendously. It gives me, as I mentioned earlier, a way to meet people. And it gives me that one-on-one time with them to really understand who they are and what they're doing. Most importantly, those SAPs. So we've been interviewing the SAPs. So I encourage people, if you're not sure what some of these folks do, to check out their digital commercial, if you will, where we talked about what they're doing and who they are and how they can help us entrepreneurs be more successful.
Absolutely. And, sort of wrapping up, I can't believe our time is almost up here today. It's just getting choked up here.
You could feel me wrapping up. You could feel it.
I can feel you. I know. I listen to the podcast. When you ask how to get hold of me, it's like the Grammy music is playing. I got to get off the freaking stage here. But if you're a prospect or a member, well, mostly if you're a member, seriously, re-engage, give things a shot. You've been around a long time and you feel like, oh, it's not how it used to be. Well, it's not how it used to be because nothing's how it used to be. I'm not sure how long you've lived on this planet, but it's never like it used to be. So come find out about the new thing that is today. But seriously, give it a chance. Come see some of the events. We've had that sort of reboot since COVID of we just had trouble even getting restaurants to be like, oh, I'm not sure if we're going to be open, or I'm not sure if I want to give you a quote for catering because maybe I want it to be twice as much in 2 weeks. So call us back, right? It's just been hard to put things together. And I think the new normal has arrived. We've got a great calendar program that's scheduled all the way, through the end of our fiscal year into, May and June of next year. To get the value out of EO, you got to talk to other members. It really is that you got to get out of your house, get out of your forum, talk to other members, and reach out to me. I'm a very open and interactive member, and currently the chapter president of EO Boston. If you've got an idea, a comment, complaint, snide remark, something nice to say, don't be shy. Reach out and let me know.
And don't forget, his love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah, tell me how awesome I am, and then tell me your problem.
So thank you, Glenn, and you are awesome. I appreciate everything.
So are you, Mark.
The members
big hug here. Zoom hug.
There's the Zoom hug. So thank you so much. And folks who are listening, thank you for listening. If you learned something, or if you thought about somebody, a member who may not know Glenn, a member who may be sitting and relying only on forum, or somebody who is thinking about joining EO, please share this with them or anyone at that. Thank you again, Glenn. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you more.
Folks, this has been another exciting episode of Leadership in Action, your Boston chapter of EO's podcast. Thank you and be well. Leadership in Action is sponsored by the Boston chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. As the world's only peer-to-peer network exclusively for entrepreneurs, EO helps transform the lives of those who transform the world.